I have entered the BLMRA World Championships for Lawn Mower Racing to see if I can become a world champion in my group. There were 30 incredibly close, hard-fought races, but in one of them, it all went very wrong for me. We're back for another video, and today is the BLMRA World Championship. We're entered, we'll see how it goes. Last week we had so many problems, I'm going to show you that in a second, but this week I think we've got them fixed. This video will be us finding out and seeing how this goes. It's going to be short, sharp, intense racing today. Looking forward to it. So here's how it's going to work. Everyone's alongside each other, which is different for the World Champs, then heading down the start line into the first corner. There's going to be 2 heats. If you come first or second in the bottom heat, you go up. If you come third or fourth in the bottom heat, you go. In the top heat, you come down. So the idea is to stay in the top heat if you can. So once we saw the Group 2s finish their races, starting out a little bit wet this track and then drying up, it was time to see the first heat of Group 3. I wasn't in this one, so getting a steady start. Now it's really, really wet. You can see how tricky that launch is going to be. It's time for me to have a go. But just before that, you might be thinking, Callum, why was there no video from Kent? Well, let me show you why. I was leading the second race. Things were going well. We like this. The whole pack behind me, I was managing to park the bus just well enough to keep them behind me. We come around this top corner, and then boom, belt comes off. We love that when we're leading a race. So, well, I thought, well, it's just that. It's okay, belts, that happens. Third race went about this well. Won't show any more of that one. Next race, what else could go wrong? Let's have a think. I come round, clip a bollard, that snaps the steering. Excellent work, Callum. So back to fix that. Next race, I come around the bottom corner on the brakes, I hear a clink. What's that? Turns out my entire engine pulley has come off. What else could go wrong? Seriously? And look at it there. And there was loads more, but I can't be bothered to edit it. Let's get on with this weekend. So last week we were having issues with the clutch, with the steering. It was time to see if this mower was going to hold up. So getting lined up on the grid, trying to position ourselves in the grid box as best we can for the best possible grip. I put my most aggressive tyres on to try and get as much grip off this launch. Also gone down a gear, trying to keep the revs up and the power high. How does this start go? A steady initial start, but we get a good second launch past Ross. Stu flying around the outside. He is going to take the Joker lap, so we get to use that once, and that cuts out a whole section of the circuit, so it's a fair bit quicker, but obviously all of us can only use it once, so timing is perfect there. He used that to get a great start. We're following Algirdas, see how we can get on, and he is just pulling away from us, having really, really good grip here. I was starting to think if I not get my tyre pressures right, that kind of thing, but it is only the first race, so let's see how we go. Getting a good exit out of this corner. Do we take the Joker lap? There's a really strategic element here, is like, when do you take it? Algirdas takes it, but I'd already gone deep, so I had to take that lap. Algirdas comes out in second behind Stu, and now we're kind of in this stalemate here. Ross hasn't taken his Joker lap, and as we come around this bottom corner, it all goes wrong already in the first race. I look down, the throttle cable has snapped. I've got no power, so I had to limp around this lap just to finish the race, pulling the throttle by hand. How unbelievably frustrating. So it's time straight back to the gazebo, to the pits to get this thing fixed. Sean came over to see if I needed any help here. So it's time to swap out this throttle cable. And the design of my throttle is really quite complicated, and it's out the way and it's tricky to change. And it's also right by the exhaust. So here's me trying to fix it whilst repeatedly burning my hands. And this actually cost me one race. I missed an entire heat. But for every 10 races we do, one gets dropped. So I knew that could be a drop score. No reason to let our head drop down. It was time to get into my second race. And I do get an okay start, but Stu seems to fly off the launch there. I'm up the inside of Algirdas, holding our position. I'm going to try and take the normal lap, and he uses that as an excuse to take the outside for the Joker lap. And as we come around here, also taking the Joker lap, it's Hayden Clegg. It's his first race meeting. He turned 15 this week, and he was absolutely flying. On a stemp mower, a very, very good Group 3, and his father is a multiple British champion, 12-hour champion. They won the 12-hour on a Group 3, so I knew he was going to be quick. We're going to have a look up the inside. down into this bottom corner. Do we take the Joker lap? Yes, we are. On the exit, it looks like Stu's got us, but it's going to be close with Algridis. Can we try the outside? We have got a good run, but the next corner being a left-hander, I just had to back out of that. It was very, very close. That strategy was looking okay, but I wonder if we could have left that Joker lap a few laps later. 2 laps later, we come around to the checkered flag, and that was that second race done. I popped back to the pits to just adjust some tyre pressures, try and get some more rotation. It was time for a third race. It's so short and sharp in these World Champs. The races just come at you thick and fast. We're up the inside of Cleggy Jr. There's Cleggy Sr. in front of us on the 41, so I elect to take the outside line to take the Joker lap nice and early. I'm starting to learn here. It's almost worth taking your Joker lap either on the first lap or the last lap. So as we come round here, we could be in with a shot of our first win here. Because we came fourth in that last race, we drop down into the second heat. You get 1 less point for each position in this one, so it's important you really capitalise and really get a good result. As we come around this bottom corner, is anyone going to take the Joker lap? No, they're not. As we come around, getting a good exit, starting to learn this track, starting to find out how to be a bit quicker. I was struggling through some of the really tight hairpins to get the rotation, get good drive out on the exit, but we do fix that later on in this video. Down into the bottom corner on the brakes, and then we come around to finish the lap. We do get our first win of the weekend. So that moved us back up into top split, the top race. But now we're against faster riders here. Sean and Stu were so fast this weekend. Mateus on the outside, also very quick. We're on the brakes, up the inside. What do we do? And this was where I think I made a mistake. You just had to give yourself an opportunity to take the Joker lap at a different time to other people. And here I think this was a bad mistake. I'd gone in a bit too deep and followed these 2 guys through. So it meant that if I was going to grab a position, I was going to have to grab it on track. And because they're so fast, this was going to be a real uphill battle. And zipping ahead, you can see that. They just pull away from me here and we come round to finish this race in 3rd position. Not a bad result. So that's Saturday morning done, 5 heats done. Obviously we had the first race, which I was feeling like I had okay pace, like it wasn't too bad. And then throttle cable snapped. That to replace on my mower is really fiddly. So that took a while to get fixed. I missed 1 race. Then I had 1 third place and 2 wins. So 2 wins from the second group, so you get 1 less point. Anyway, it actually, from a bad start, wasn't too bad. So I'm gonna have some lunch now. Emma's not here, she's watching Robbie Williams. I've got to make my own lunch. Ultimate hardship, I know, but very grateful for the ladies for always supporting us and making us lunch while we're racing. Anyway, after that, before the racing got started, I found something else fun to do. Sean said, do you want to have a go on my mower? And this mower has won a British Championship and a few World Championships. Very, very good mower here. Obviously, Sean's father, Ian Tanswell, won everything back in his day, and this mower is an evolution of that. And so it was really interesting to see what decisions they'd made and how this thing was different. It felt really a load stiffer, the steering was more precise, the ergonomics were a bit different, the pedal layout was a little bit different, the seat felt a little bit different. So it's really good to learn what you like and what you don't like on other people's mowers, and this thing felt just so well put together and well dialed in.
You've got way more steering lock.
Yeah.
I feel the weight of the steering more.
It's heavier.
It also feels like it's like more spacious. I don't know if it's that or it's this.
Maybe a mix of both.
I feel like I can get down here if I need to.
Yeah. That's why I'm putting this steering wheel where it is. So my arms clear my knees. I used to, on my dad's, used to find I get tangled up in my knees and my arms all the time.
It's stiffer. And your brakes are amazing.
Very easy to lock up.
Yeah, like it's like 1 toe, whereas mine is like...
You really have to force it.
Yeah, big difference. I know it's a massive difference.
So after lunch, once I got back on my mower, it was time to get off to a better start if I could. So lining up in the grid, things had dried out a bit more. Hayden says he's finding it good. Good to see him out there. Now, good launch from me, same from Mateus. He's actually got a little bit ahead, but I managed to gain it back on the brakes and then tuck it into the main lap. Now, as I said before, I was starting to learn that you either take the Joker lap on the first lap or the last lap, or to avoid traffic. So that was my decision. I'm not going to take it. If I get to the inside, I'm not going to take it. I'm going to hold it on as long as I can. Now here, coming up ahead, I knew Hayden Clegg was there and I didn't want to have to try and cost myself time overtaking him. So I thought, okay, I'm going to take the Joker lap now. Where do we come out? We've got Cleggy and Mateus battling out and I think they've cost each other time, so we managed to get out ahead. Then a couple laps later, come round to grab the win in that one. Much better result. And then straight into the second race, this time in the top heat. So more points on offer here, trying to get the best result we can. And here we played a bit of a blinder of a strategy. So struggling with the clutch binding on the start, so that's why I'm holding something else. So I was holding the brake to try and keep myself stationary, and that's why I get a really bad launch. So everyone going straight on, I decide to take the main lap and hammer in the best lap times I can. So zipping ahead, this is me trying to hit all my marks, make sure I'm putting in the best lap I possibly can. Then straight away, because I can see everyone else battling, I'm going to take the Joker lap. Sean's by, but we managed to get Stu, who'd been getting a lot of second places along with Sean. So any points we can take off him is a very, very good thing. Skipping ahead 2 laps, we come through to grab a second place in this top heat. Really, really happy with that.
Oh, that was better. Stu and Mateus got caught up, so I managed to get it. Really? You guys all sent it into the Joker. I tucked in behind. I was like, right, a full lap, and then I looked around when I was here, and Mateus and Stu were like both off the track. So I was like, now, I'll take the Joker lap now.
You see that?
Yeah. What happened? All I saw was both of you really wide.
Yeah, I came from inside and then...
After a great result there then, this one I completely switched off. I looked away at the wrong time. Dino did give us a thumbs up and I didn't see it, so we've got a long uphill battle to try and reclaim third, which we did manage to do on the final lap coming out of the Joker lap, taking my strategy I was getting used to now. Third from there wasn't too bad, but I've really got to switch on here. Right, next race. Trying to get a better launch here. What can we do? It's starting to dry up. Look at that camera angle. You gotta love it. Decent start. We're on the inside. Algradas just gets an incredible launch off the front. So again, we're going to tuck under our patented strategy as we come through lap 3 and we just about get around. I was starting to find some real lap time here at this point, and that won me that race. Only 2 more races until the end of the day, and I knew there was going to be 3 of us close, me, Ross and Algradas for third place, so trying to do everything I could to get some good points. Sean leaping off the start there, he's going to take the Joker lap and everyone is going to follow him. So again, we're going to follow our usual technique of just doing the opposite of whatever they do at the start. As I come through the Joker lap, here's where I was getting a bit disappointed. We're coming through in third. I've got a good run. This is the final lap, but as I look up, there's an opening on the inside. There's no bollards, and I stick it up the inside past Stu. There was a little bit of contact, and as we see that again, there's no bollards on the inside, so that's all fair room. Stu wasn't expecting it. There was, what, 7/8 of a lawn bug space there, and I made it 8/8. There was a little bit of contact. Ugh. But anyway, we move on. I went and said sorry for the contact to Stu afterwards, but I left it a little while. You have to take those opportunities when they come, and that was what I just did impulsively. But anyway, things were going really well at this point. After a tricky start, I wasn't unhappy with that. But this was where it all started to go very, very wrong. So again, we're in the second heat here with Cleggy and Ross and Carl Selby. Ross gets a good start off the launch here. And we're actually going to, because people were on the inside, I had to follow him through the Joker lap. So now I'm thinking, oh no, I'm going to have to put an overtake on Ross. And this track, without the Joker lap, was very, very hard to overtake. So we're going to try something here. So he gets a bad launch out of that corner. I get a really good launch. I'm going to try late on the brakes around the outside, and we get clipped. And we were over. And as I get on the mower, trying to get it started again, I noticed the steering is snapped, and it was actually way worse than I initially thought. So Matt very kindly helped me push this mower back, which was really tricky with no steering, and we're going to have a look at this crash. Right, editing Callum here. I wanted to look over this footage and kind of explain my perspective for this. So coming out of this corner, I've got a good run. Ross was having a few issues with his engine, so that's why my straight line speed was higher. Ignore the calibration here. The rotation's a bit wrong because the camera came off once the crash happened. But on the way in here, I have like the nose ahead, I've got half the mower ahead. I've tried a classic like outbraking maneuver. My goal was to pinch him all the way to the inside so he couldn't get on the throttle. On the way out, I'd have the inside for the next corner. That was the plan. I'd done it a couple of times that day. I flipped around, you can see I've got the mower fully ahead. I have pinched Ross to the inside, but you can still see there's plenty of racing room there where you can see that grass. I'm turning in to meet the apex, and Ross stays there. There's a moment where we come together, tips me over. Now, my perspective was that at this point where I'm ahead, I'm going into the corner, that's my racing line. I probably would expect Ross to stay on the brakes and get out of it. So I think that was my perspective. His perspective would be that I pinched him to the inside, didn't leave space for him, and we came together. On the day, I was quite annoyed about this. I felt like I'd got hit and that's why I came off. But looking back at this, I think this is just classic like racing incident. I tried to pinch him. There's a risk to that. He kept his nose in, which I suppose he's entitled to do. I think personally, if I were on the inside, I would have got on the brakes and backed out, but that's racing. And we came together. It just was a shame that the results, like the effect to the mower, was so much worse for me. But we'll see that now. So once we got the mower back, it was way worse than I thought. I knew the steering was broken, but look at that. The actual chassis is bent. And this is the sort of thing that if we had this problem at home, this would have taken me 2 weeks to fix. But we had to fix it in a field. We still had a day of racing more to go. So I'm just disassembling this to see the extent of the damage, marking this so I know exactly where that rose joint goes back in, so I can keep the setup the same, keep everything square. Then taking the steering wheel off. That was already been bent before in a previous crash, so it's going to have to be bent back again. You can see that's a real Pringle, that one. That is not looking good. And so I tried the rubber mallet to try and not dent the aluminium as much as possible, but it needed more than that. And here, Cressy was an absolute lifesaver in helping me get this fixed. And this fix was much more involved than anyone I've ever tried before. So we borrowed Alfie's block of wood here and upgrading to a different hammer and really just trying to hammer this flat. It started to go. I never quite got it exactly right, but it's near enough. Then to bend the chassis back, we had to get fairly drastic. Very kindly borrowed Richard Atherton's blowtorch, and we're just going to heat this up and try and bend it back.
A lovely powder coating.
Yeah, start from the bottom, get the heat going up through the top. This will take 5 minutes to heat it up.
It's going to stop it going all the way.
Yeah, yeah.
So just adding some cloth to try and stop the whole mower getting hot there. And after a while, it came to this point. I initially tried to bend it back with the rose joint. So I got my foot on the mower, adjustable spanner on, and we're just going to try and pull this back square once we got this hot. But you're about to see that that went wrong.
Oh no. Snap that off.
Luckily, that didn't land on Cressy, but then we had to take a different approach. So getting that old rose joint out, we then put another thread back in, and then Cressy came up with a new idea. So we've got a socket on here, then a million extensions. I'm going to try and pull that back square. Right.
Yeah, take it off for a minute, because it'll be sucking heat, suck the heat out. Cleggy and Dino.
Oh, what, the let these?
Yeah.
I'm going to put some pressure on.
Yeah, okay.
So we've got the old rose joint in there to make sure we don't destroy the threads on the inside. Socket on the outside, which actually fit
like
really
it's going.
nicely.
So it's just all flex and that.
Yeah.
That went a bit.
Yeah. A little bit more. A little bit more, then you're going to go down. Okay, that's it. Now, you need to now go down.
Why?
Look.
It's just bent here. I stop now. I'm going to put a straight edge against it.
Nothing, that way.
Yeah, I'll let it cool really slowly.
Cool off.
Thank you, Cressy.
Also broke my 350 quid camera. It pulled out the mount.
Now to get this thing fixed, and the lucky thing was we did get back racing, which just goes to show everyone very kindly lending so much stuff. The hammer, the blocks, the blowtorch, all the tools, loads of it. And there we go. That is what is good about Lawn Mower Racing, is that loads of people lent me stuff. I think it's an hour later, so 4:45 I think the crash happened. It's now 5:45, I've had a beer. Mower's fixed, I need to try it.
I don't know if you're going to see anything after this because my camera broke, so I need to see if I can fix that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put anything else on there. We'll see. Let's see what we can do. And straight after this, we cracked a beer, went down to the beer tent, hung out with everyone, and this is one of the best bits, is Saturday night, chatting about the racing, catching up with everyone. We were lacking music, so I decided to take Matt's mower back from the beer tent through the show field to go and get a speaker and come back. But after that, it was the morning again. I got my backup camera on the mower.
Morning. So, tricky day yesterday. Fixed up the mower, went to the pub, had a good evening. Now it's time to go again. So, I've just heard about the scores. I'm currently sitting in 5th. My goal is 3rd. I want a trophy in this one. I'm 8 points behind Algradas and I'm 2 points behind Ross. But there are drop scores that haven't been accounted for yet. So if there's 30 rounds, which I think there will be by the end of this, then you drop 3 rounds. So the maths is quite complicated, but I've just got to try and go out there and every race score more points than those two. And the mower actually miraculously is looking okay after some fairly serious damage. So yeah, let's go, raring to go.
And let me tell you, we got off to a good start. So on the grid here, I'll apologise first of all for the audio on my backup camera, but anyway, we got the 3rd best start out of here. And actually, with everyone going deep, I decided to tuck under again using my favourite strategy. And as we come round here, we've got Carl Selby in front, so we are going to take the Joker lap to not lose any time trying to make overtakes. And as we come out here, it's going to be incredibly close. We're 3 wide now at this stage, and we do manage to just use the momentum to get past both of them to take the lead of this race. That was insanely close. You know, you're coming out and half a tenth matters in these races. And now we've got to park the bus, hug the inside, hit our marks, make sure we don't leave any openings. We're going to come through to win our first race. Not bad, considering how the mower was yesterday. That was good. So a few points taken off the other guys. Second race. Again, really struggling off that initial phase of the launch, but that's where I was just trying to use this other strategy of hooking under. But here we're slightly compromised because Stu has had the same idea with Sean taking the Joker lap, who he was mostly racing the weekend. So I'm just going to try and follow Stu and run the best lap times I can. Here just hitting every mark I could, and I felt at this stage like things were all right, the pace was okay, but Ross was starting to have an edge here, and you're seeing here coming out the bottom corner, he has just got a mower's length on me. But actually, he's got a bad run. What can we do coming up behind him? Only a couple of quarters left. He's up out the seat. And again, slightly different technique. And actually, we were quite close on the exit coming across the line, but that was a 4th place.
So that's a pretty tricky morning. The mower's actually feeling really good, but I'm in a frustrating position. Ross keeps beating me and I'm sort of in a group with him, so we always finish, he finishes 3rd, I'm 4th, which means I drop down to the next group, and then it's always 50-50 in that race whether I can beat Ross or not, and we keep going back and forth. And that means that Mateus and Algridas, the other guys I'm kind of competing with for 3rd here, particularly Algridas, keeps outscoring me. So it's tricky. I think this is going to be a big battle this afternoon if we can. I think 3rd is starting to look out of reach, but see what we can do.
Anyway, at lunchtime we decided to make a change. I was struggling through some of the slower corners, and last meeting I reduced the amount of camber. So this time I'm just going 1 turn out on the bottom and 1 turn in on the top to add a little bit more camber to try and help me in those tight corners. And I went out after lunch and it did make a big difference, particularly through those corners. So I think on the big open tracks now I'm going to go less camber, and then on the tighter ones I'm going to add a bit more. But that's just another thing to add to the learnings here. And we get an okay launch. Again, Ross beats us off the line, but I beat the 2 Cleggies. So I'm going to try and hook it into this bottom corner, going slightly deep there, debating what to do in the helmet. Need to be a bit more decisive there. As we come out this bottom corner, again, just trying to get a good exit. You can see how much the track has changed. This track has held up pretty good, but it's just got really, really grippy. So again, having to take the Joker lap because Hayden was there and I didn't want to have to lose time overtaking him. And actually, Ross is nowhere to be seen. I believe he snapped his axle at this point. And so that gifted me that win there, really. Straight into the next race. Again, what can we do off the launch? Just the 2 Cleggies to race this time. And here I'm ahead, so I'm going to take the Sean strategy of going straight into the Joker lap to try and maximise lap time there. I think you do save a bit of time because you can carry more momentum into turn 1.
And actually, I've skipped ahead in the race, and look at the fuel tank here. It's absolutely all over the place. I started to notice there was fuel a bit on my leg. What was that about? Fuel everywhere. This snapped. So the piece of angle iron that's part of that must have got damaged in the roll and snapped it, and actually I managed to use the universal fix with a few cable ties around the A-frame, and actually after that it was rock solid, so that was good. And only a few more races to go this afternoon before we find out who the world champion is. I'm sure you can have a guess in our group, but anyway, there's loads more going in other groups, and to be honest, the afternoon was more of the same. The shame with the World Championships, in it normally being a smaller circuit, lots and lots of races, is that normally the same thing happens in loads of races. Like, for example, Sean, I later found out, was on a really low gear, so getting really good launches. And so he managed to beat everyone into the bottom corner. He would then beat Stu. Stu, both of them had more pace than I did. So normally I'd finish third or fourth. And kind of the same thing just kept happening again and again. So here I was in the top heat. Because of that, I got put down in the bottom heat. So then I managed to beat these guys off the line. I had a slightly better launch, and then I found I had a little bit more lap time than the two Cleggies. So often, if I got things right, I could win the second heat. But that meant that Algridis was in the other one, so he was normally getting more points than I was. That's kind of how it went. There we go, final race done. I don't know where I've come, but I don't think it's third after all of that. There we go. See where we come. But before we found out where we placed, they did do the race of champions. So Jensen Creswell, who won the World Championship in Group 2, went out first. Then at a set time, based on their lap times, they send out the Group 3 leader, which was Sean Tanswell. Then, following the same again, Group 4 with Alfie Smith. This race ended in a spectacular way, which I'll show you in a second. But everyone was basically, the goal was try to do their lap times, who could come out on top after all of this, with Group 3 and Group 4 released at certain intervals behind Group 2. Everyone was pushing as hard as they could, and this race was really, really long. And actually, we're going to jump on board with Sean here. I put my camera on his mower, and here we're going to catch something. Alfie Smith pushing hard to try and win this race. Comes through, just clobbers it. Oh, clobbers a bollard. And that rolled the mower over. I've done that a few times, but this one looked like a hard hit from Alfie. Mower, the steering wheel was bent, but it looked like everything else was okay. And in the end there, we came fourth overall, which isn't too bad. A little disappointing. We'll try and go again next week. I've got one more video lined up for you later on this week, the European Tractor Cup. I jump on a Group 4 to see how I stack up against the other guys. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.